This podcast is a collaboration between Costard and Touchstone Productions and the Dads from the Crypt podcast.
I want you to rest well, and a month from now, this Hollywood big shot's gonna give you what you want.
Too late. They start shooting in a week.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the How Not to Make a Movie podcast. I'm Alan Katz. Making a return visit to the podcast is my very good friend and former agent, Nick Mechanic. If you enjoyed Nick's first visit, you'll love his second. And if you haven't met Nick yet, prepare to be blown away by the inside look you're about to get into the film and TV business. We're talking at the deal-making level, where the rubber of creativity hits the road of commerce. As Nick's great stories reveal, it's a world brimming with both princes and thieves. I first met Nick during the down years after Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, and Bordello of Blood. I'd been struggling for a while after Joel, for reasons never explained, cut me loose. It sucked being separated from the Crypt community. They were my creative family. They went on to do an unfortunate TV series called Perversion of Science for HBO, but they also did various other TV and movie projects. One of my remaining Crypt friends back then, Scott Nimmerfro, took pity on me and introduced me to Nick. Back then, Mechanic, that's what everyone calls him, was the young hotshot agent at a small boutique agency called The Agency. It was owned and run by a Hollywood legend named Jerry Zeitman. Back in the day, Jerry was one of the most powerful agents in Hollywood. He repped people like George Burns and Gracie Allen, Shirley MacLaine, Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, Tony Curtis, Rod Serling, Ron Howard, and Frank Sinatra. Big names. In the late 1970s, Jerry stepped away from being an agent and became a producer instead. He made Damnation Alley in 1977, Just You and Me, Kid in 1979, and How to Beat the High Cost of Living in 1980 before returning to agenting and starting The Agency. Nick and I got on instantly. I had a decent credit to my name, Crypt, and I was wide open to doing anything because I needed a job. Nick was young and tenacious, fierce, aching to prove himself every day in every way. He was relentless in pursuit of whatever he wanted, and Nick wanted to score a TV job for me. It was amazing. He was an amazing asset to have. When Mechanic was on his game, there was nobody better. Now, as Nick and I discussed in the episode, there are two kinds of talent representation in Hollywood: agents and managers. Agents are more about making deals, while managers are more about building and sustaining careers. They're more holistic in their approach to talent. But Nick combined the two into one. He was a ferocious dealmaker agent who called you every day just to check in, like a Jewish mother manager. Nick's stories of deals and deal-making, they're amazing. He'll put you right in the room with him. And those are some amazing rooms filled with princes and thieves. Here's Nick. So, Nick, the entertainment year in review per you, that's just to get us started.
Turmoil. I mean, turmoil. And now that you have Universal NBC being spun off, right? Their cable division, there will be, like you and I discussed, there will be no more MSNBC, CNBC. Cable news as we know it will cease to exist.
Well, let's go back and talk about that, because you and I had the conversation. We didn't have it with the audience.
No.
So what you're referencing is the fact that Comcast is going to spin off all of its cable.
That's right.
Pieces.
Yeah.
Why?
Because there's no room for cable anymore. There's no audience for it. It's all streamers. Everything is streamers. You can now watch the fights on streamers. You can watch football, NFL on streamers. You can watch anything. You never have to leave streamers. And on streamers, you get to watch a football game and have Beyonce as the halftime star. You can't watch that on cable or network. They can't afford that. These companies have deep pockets, Alan. Like, seriously, it's called fuck you money. And they're
Best kind of
using
money
it,
there is, apparently.
and they're using it like that.
In the case of Netflix, what it did on Christmas Day with its NFL package,
Huge.
it really is. It's like it's going after NBC and Fox
CBS, you got it.
and if it takes those, if it takes if it can somehow pry the NFL away from the networks, what do they have left?
A third of their viewership on Netflix sat down and watched the football games. A third. Do you know how big that is?
A third of Netflix's worldwide viewership.
Correct.
Do you know what that number is?
Large.
I
I don't know the exact figures.
but trust us on this. It was big, man. It was fucking big.
So the cable companies, the networks, they're not going to be able to afford to have Howie Long and, all these cats, that they're spending 20, 30 million a year on. The former John Maddens of the world, that's going to cease to exist. And then you're going to have NBA do the same, without a doubt. They go where the money is.
Well, sure.
It's capitalism.
Of course. Well, the athletes are expensive, so the deals have to be expensive to pay for them athletes.
Right.
How it is.
You don't think the Lakers will go after a Netflix deal versus doing it on Fox Sports West?
Oh gosh, what is Fox Sports? What is so teeny weeny? Even the deal that they have now with who's their deal with Comcast?
Right.
Aren't they exclusive in LA through Comcast?
It won't be very long. And you damn well know Hulu and Amazon are going to get into it.
Oh, well, yeah, because hey, if you can get a couple of big sports packages, you got some cash flow.
Right. And they've got the same technology as Netflix. And, Netflix had a lot to prove with the debacle of the Tyson Paul fight. They had a lot to prove because the quality situation of the fight was horrendous.
Well, okay, let's all right. Let's go at that for a second because that fight was fascinating. Did you watch the fight?
I did.
Okay, all right.
As bad, as disgusted as it was,
but they got a lot of people to come in and suddenly be part of Netflix, didn't they?
That's right.
All right, so never mind the quality of the fight. That's almost an esoteric.
I'm buying Netflix stock going to earnings because they increase their viewership, and that's how Netflix works.
It was, my son and a couple of friends watched all of the undercard, and there were apparently, and I didn't see it. I didn't watch any of that. I was working, but yeah, we were there for the main event, and they said that the undercard there were a couple of great fights. There were two women who they said were amazing, just
right.
So brave, so amazingly brave. And then to see that Tyson fight, which was like a payday, just got a bunch of guys going for a payday, you assholes. After the shakeout from the streaming wars, which was also quite devastating, and that right now the film and TV business is certainly in LA is in the shits. It's deep in the shits, is it not?
And then when you look at I was kind of when you asked me to come on the show, and I was thinking about the movies that came out during Christmas. They're all remakes or sequels. Gladiator,
yeah.
Lion King,
yeah,
Wicked,
yeah.
The horror movie I can't pronounce that came up from Universal is a remake. There's a couple of the Nicole Kidman movie, an independent movie.
Mm-hmm.
but they're all remakes. There was no original movies put out during Christmas. I get it, but what gives? Where's the creative juice? Where's the talent in the executive world?
Well, there has always been, for the most part, not entirely, but for the most part, an absolute lack of courage in those suites. But on the one hand, it's understandable because, hey, failure you pay with your career.
I sold a script once. I went out with it to like 30 companies. I went out really wide. Everybody passed. I get a call on a Friday morning that Steven Spielberg loves the script and wants to buy it. And then all of a sudden, every company that decided that they didn't want to do it, all of a sudden wanted to do it. All because Steven Spielberg thought that there's a great idea here. And I was just like, oh, this is wild. But I wanted to keep my relationship with DreamWorks. It was Amblin, it was DreamWorks at the time. And so I'm not gonna have Steven Spielberg mad at me.
Yeah, Steve, you have competition, dude. You maybe better add a couple more zeros and move that decimal point over a
I
few
like my
places.
job. The wrath that would have come down on me, you know.
No doubt.
Yeah, so the films that came out, they were great, and they've done huge business, but there was nothing to see.
Sorely lacking.
Yeah, and yet the TV world is great. The streaming TV world is great, and there are series that I can watch over and over and over again.
Let's make a distinction. The creative environment in TV is great. The production environment in TV is a tumor. Is a tumor. It's a dying patient.
The executive at Netflix have the power when they hear an idea that they really like to commission a script. They don't need to go to their bosses. They don't need to go to a committee. They don't need to go to anybody. If they really like it, they go with it. And they hire the writer to write a script. End of story.
The question is the culture at Netflix penetrating the culture as an agent.
Right.
That's the thing that I keep hearing. You know, a lot of companies, you form a relationship, and that becomes there's some yin and yang to the relationship dynamic. I've never heard anyone say they had that yin and yang dynamic with Netflix.
No, but they do let you buy. They do buy, which is nice. We don't want to put some money in our pocket.
Indeed. Although the deals now ain't the deals that we are used to in the past.
Not even close. The people on those shows are not making the money you made on Outer Limits. They're not. And they're only doing 6 to 8. You got blessed with doing 22 to 25.
22's on Outer Limits. So, you knew whatever your per episode was times 22.
Right.
Hooray.
Right.
That was a fantastic business. Yeah. Scripts on top of that. It was, those were lucrative years.
I remember.
Yeah. Times were good, man.
I had the pleasure of going to Vancouver.
Yes, we had some
all
good times.
The time.
You had some good times in Vancouver.
I really did. I did. I'm surprised I'm not banned from Canada like I'm banned from Mexico.
I'll drop a funny story in here. The assistant, my first season on Outer Limits, we had an assistant. I don't remember her name, but you might.
Leah.
Leah. We had an assistant named Leah, and she was very, very pretty. She was very.
I went out with her.
Yes, I was going to get to there.
For 3 days.
And when I first got up there,
she was smoking.
I would have multiple conversations with you every day, which is the nature of our relationship then. And after a couple of days, Leah approached me and she said, "Oh, wait, you have a really intense relationship with your mechanic, don't you?"
Yeah. when I call people to this day, and there's all these new people, new executives, and like, you're his mechanic. I'm like, no, Nick mechanic. I don't fix things. I'm an old manager, producer, friend of so and so. Oh, I thought you were his mechanic. I'm like, everyone does. You will
Yeah,
get
you
to
get to
know
make that mistake once, pal.
once. Yes.
When you and I first started in this business together, you were working for a guy named Jerry Zeit.
God rest his soul.
Yeah. In your mind, was Zeitman a good agent, a great agent, or bullshit?
Great negotiator. That's what he was great at. The guy could negotiate deals while actually doing crossword puzzles without a problem and be hardcore. But he taught me how to negotiate, where he taught me to be fair and not to ask for things that you're not going to get, and don't act like a whore or a pig
Hmm.
unless you have all of the backup to get what you really want. If your client hasn't had a movie made or hasn't sold anything for a while, he's not going to get a 25% bump on his fee. He's just not. Don't ask for it. You're not going to get it, and you're going to look stupid.
Hmm.
He taught me how to be fair. But when shit got, he renegotiated Chuck Norris's deal on that big series that Chuck did, and renegotiated the entire thing for Chuck Norris and for Chuck Company that produced it.
Hmm.
He made a shitload of money.
Hmm.
He renegotiated some actors' deals on Law and Order, on Fresh Prince of Bel Air. He got them significant money. He was not a great agent. He lived in the past, but he knew everybody knew him. People respected him. They gave him the time of day. He can
Now
get anybody on the phone.
the past that Jerry lived in was quite a past. It was
Yes.
not. It was a significant piece of Hollywood's
He
past.
represented George Burns and Danny Kaye and you and those guys,
Yeah,
I mean, the cream of the crop.
he was at MCA when it started.
MCA, working
You
for Lou
know,
Wasserman.
right, which was, I mean, Lou Osman was like
That was
a
it.
kingmaker.
He owned the network and he owned the studio. So you're negotiating with yourself. And that's people would always laugh at Jerry and go, "You were the buyer and the seller, dude. You were both. It wasn't one or the other for you."
Yeah.
And he just laughed. But he would have to negotiate against Lou Wasserman, who was probably the toughest guy ever in the business. Tougher than Ovitz.
Hmm.
Tougher than Ari Emanuel. Jerry told me a story. They went to work on a Saturday, and instead of they wore blue, gray, or black suits. That was their dress code. And Jerry was, and a shirt and tie. And Jerry was wearing a sweater. And Lou looked at him and goes, "What are you on vacation? This is a Saturday." And he's wearing slacks, a sweater, and a sport coat. It was
And
very different world.
it didn't work in the room.
It was a great story. He had great stories to tell.
Yeah, he did. He was a fascinating man with, again, because he worked with, he knew, he just was in so many interesting rooms with so many interesting people.
Right. I mean, at the height of his career, he probably negotiated and had more TV series on the air than anybody. He was that happening. Unfortunately, he made a shitload of money, unlike his friends George Burns and all those other guys. I'm drawing a blank on their names.
Like,
They bought real estate. They bought Beverly Hills real estate. They bought Universal City real estate.
yeah.
Instead, Jerry put his money in T-bills. So the other guys were worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. There was a guy who owned the land that sat Universal Studios today. And he was a producer. I'm drawing a blank on his name as well. And he sold all the land that now sits MCA for $20 million to Lou Wasserman. Mull, Ed Mull, Muhl. His son was an attorney at Disney that I had the pleasure of negotiating some deals with. Not only did he sell that land for $20 million, but he leased back $2 million worth of sound stages for 10 years.
Of course he did. Wow.
His son was very upset, went through life very jaded. That was his land. Billions of dollars of land.
Mm,
Billions.
mm, mm.
Oh, well.
Lou Wasserman. What makes, all right, so Lou Wasserman, a great negotiator. Man, you have all the power in the
Good
world.
leader.
Who,
Strong leader.
strong leader. But all right, was he a great agent? What the hell is it? What makes a great agent to begin with? What separates an agent from a manager?
Agents aren't as hands-on. Managers are, when I was managing, and I still manage some people, I'm their life. I am in touch with the agent. I reiterate what the agent says. I back up what the agent says if I agree with it. Nothing gets done without the agent and myself included, and the attorney 98% of the time. I manage their schedule. I when they're flying on behalf of business, I coordinate and get everything handled. So it's a little more of an assistant in a way, and being their hand holder. Agents don't hold hands. I was an agent for 15 years. I was there to make deals. That's all I did, procure deals for clients. But I acted differently, as you well know. I was I stayed in touch with you, and I spoke every day when you were working,
Yes, true.
let alone non-working. We spoke all the time.
It was seen by its nature that managers in general, not in your case, but managers are more personal in their relationship with
I was a very
a
personal
talent.
agent.
Yeah, which was why you were the exception.
I was at the hospital when your son was born. Like
You were?
a couple hours later, I brought you
Oh,
champagne.
oh, when my daughter was born, because Tristan was born up in Vancouver.
Yeah, your daughter.
Yeah, yeah. But my daughter was born here in LA.
Tristan was
She's an
born in
Angelina.
Vancouver.
Tristan's a Canadian.
No wonder why I like him.
There you go, which is not a bad thing to be these days. He's hmm. He
Yeah,
had the right idea coming into
when my
this
clients
world.
were directing, I brought him a bottle of champagne. I was on the set every night.
Hmm, hmm,
I
hmm.
owned it.
Well, you one of the things that looking back, I think, wow, you were so when you were on your game, there was nobody better
CAA
because
wanted to hire me. They did, but they knew I had a cocaine problem. And their star Turk agent, Jay Maloney, had just hung himself. Excuse me. And they wanted no part of that. And I
yeah.
found this out later in my career. I had no idea. I had no idea. Lee Gabler, who was head of TV, a partner,
Hmm,
sat me down because we were negotiating a deal together
hmm.
with all the guys behind Tales from the Crypt. Funny enough, it was Zemeckis and Donner and Joel Silver and all those guys. And I had a series of comic books called Adventure Inc. by Jeff Fazio was my client on that,
Hmm.
and they wanted to sell it with Donner, Silver, etc. The whole HBO Tales from the Crypt package to HBO. It was a done deal, but they wouldn't split the package fee with me, so we wouldn't make a deal. So my client fired me and was hired became a client of CAA. And they ended up selling it to Showtime, and it ran for a couple of years, 22 episodes for like 2 years. Not fun.
No, gosh, this business can be
But
brutal.
that was my boss being bad. He just wanted we had we had the underlying property, yeah, but
Hmm.
we weren't entitled to half the package, maybe a third. That's he over negotiated that one, and we lost the client and lost a big deal.
Oh man,
It was the same thing.
and it sucks
We
to lose
we
over that, over that.
we had a script, a concept for a script and a 5-minute video, Die Hard on an oil rig. Showed the video to Arnold Coplson, and he committed to $500,000 right then and there to buy the underlying rights. And Zeitman said, no, we're going to sell it for $1 million somewhere else to Simpson Bruckheimer. I don't know if Don Simpson was still alive at the time. It was Bruckheimer or Simpson Bruckheimer, either, or Joel Silver. And we ended up not selling and lost the client, lost a $500,000 deal for the client. I can there are countless stories like this. We had an animated project called A Noteworthy Tale by Ron Kasdan. It was a story about all the musical notes coming to life, and they kidnapped one of the musical notes, so there's no music in the world. Freddie DeMann, Madonna's manager, had a briefcase with $250,000, optioned it right then and there. Jerry said no. He had Rid Madonna attached to do the music. So I learned from that.
God, one hopes.
There was never, I don't think there was ever a deal that I didn't want to do that I didn't get done. Yeah, I took it in the ass a couple too many times, but I also gave it. As much as I got fucked, I did a lot of fucking. Probably more than I got. Excuse my French.
Hey, it's the language of art and commerce.
It's a fact.
Of
I mean,
show business.
there isn't one agent that is worth your weight in salt that hasn't had to take one for the team, literally. I was banned, threatened to be banned from Universal, threatened to be banned from Fox, all because I did my job. Ban me, go ahead. They didn't. And I won. We had lawsuits and we won. I was really good at what I did. And I was taking on Harvard MBA lawyers, hardcore fellas and women.
No, like I said, when you were at the top of your game, man, because what you also did, you could expand upon an idea. So when I was doing Outer Limits, you suddenly were scooping up directors, Canadian directors, which was genius. I mean, what a clever thing to do. And you started with the director. When I did Outer Limits, my episode was the first one that they were going to produce that season. And the director on the episode, as soon as you got up there and came to visit the set, you among the people
and I had
you
never
introduced yourself
directors.
Right, but you introduced yourself to him, and you just instinctively, I guess you must have asked him about his representation, and I guess he wasn't happy, and you suddenly started a whole sideline business for yourself.
Yeah, and then we looked. The both of us befriended Joey Pantaleone, the guest star. Joey Pants, who created a haircut called the Cats, the Allen Cats.
This is an absolutely true story. When I got the Outer Limits gig, it was the first time I'd worked in a long time,
and we were grateful.
I had we were. I had let my hair grow, and I had vowed that I was not going to cut my hair until I got a paying gig, and I was supposed to do Outer Limits the season before for reasons that we won't get into. I did not get it the previous season, but you, again, you were tenacious. You didn't take no for an answer. And when
because the reason they didn't hire you the previous season was a stupid reason.
Well, yeah, like I said, we're not going to, I'm not going to get into
you.
Yeah, there was a negative comment made about me by a former coworker.
If I turned my foot, turned around every time someone had a negative comment about me, it's because they feared me. They were scared.
Yeah. I don't think that was my problem. I had the same problem.
You grew your hair out.
So I grew my hair out, and I'm doing the first episode, and hey, I was working for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I just never gotten around to cutting my hair. And I'm doing the first episode, and I had written it for a Dennis Leary kind of an actor, but Richard Lewis, who was my executive producer, he liked to hire the leads, and he hired Joey Pants. And hey, I worked with Joey on Tales from the Crypt. I like Joey, but different voice for the character. But anyway, Joey, on the first day on the set, Joey, after we worked in the morning, towards the end of the morning's work, Joey came up to me and he said, I got to tell Alan, your hair is horrible. You got to get a haircut. I mean, it's just awful. And I said, well, I was going to, and I said, when I get a paying gig, well, I know I get a paying gig. He said, well, you got to get your haircut. Now, I knew, having worked with Joey, that before Joey became an actor, he was a haircutter in New Jersey.
And he was bald.
Yes, yes, yes.
Bald as could be, wore toupees on movies.
Yeah. But he had been a hairstylist.
That's right.
And so I said, all right, Joey, because then once it became a thing with Joey, because it's just how Joey is, it became a thing. I said, all right, Joey, you want me to cut my hair? You cut my hair. I'll cut my hair today if you cut it. He said, okay, yeah, all right, okay, I'll do it. And so we agreed at lunch to go into the pretties, into the hair and makeup trailer, and Joey cut my hair. And in fact, and the photos, the Polaroids will be here. I have pictures of Joey Pantoliano cutting my hair.
That's
and he
great.
did a fantastic job.
He did.
I don't recall what I tipped him, but
I don't think you did. But he did do the first episode, and that was a great episode.
A terrific episode. Ironically, Richard Lewis, who had cast Joey without asking me, well, what do you think of Joey Pants? He just cast Joey. Now, the script was written with a Dennis Leary manic energy. Joey has a much more laconic energy. It can be manic, but naturally it's much more laid back, New Jersey.
Right.
Sopranos. And it can be light, it can be dark. Yeah. And I get during this second day of shooting, the first day's dailies have gone down to Los Angeles. Richard Lewis has seen them. And I get someone on set says, you got to go to your office. Richard Lewis wants to talk to you. I go to my office. And I pick up the phone. Hey, Richard, how can you let Joey do this to your script? and Richard has been a huge, the fact that it was going first was because everyone really liked the script. And Richard especially was, wow, this is a great script. We're going to do this script first. And so when he said, how can you let Joey do this to your script? I thought, oh, fuck me. Oh my God. And I said, Richard, stop right there. I said, look, I did not hire Joey. You did.
You did.
I said, I wrote this script for a Dennis Leary type character, type actor. You didn't ask me about casting Joey, but you did. I said, look, I like Joey. I've worked with Joey in the past. But it wasn't written for a Joey type actor. And so, yeah, that's what you're feeling is the conflict, is that conflict. He said, well, no, you got to go in and you got to tell him. I said, tell him what, to act like Dennis Leary? Right. I said, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go to my actor on day 2 of working 7 days and tell him how to act. I said, that's going to destroy our relationship. 2, he's going to resent being here. He's going to resent everything about this and we'll get shit. I said, I am not, as the on-set producer, the writer, I am not going to do that to my lead actor. I said, no, if you want to call him and tell him that, please go ahead. I said, but I'm not going to have this going. I'm not going to do it. Forget about it.
And he didn't call him. Richard didn't call him.
No, of course Richard did. Richard was an absolute coward. But the point was, what was even better was after I had that conversation with Richard never bothered me ever again. He treated me, he was really, really lovely to me. And he was not lovely to an awful lot of people. He was outer limits as Joel Silver.
Right.
He was the mercurial producer who he was always doing things for the wrong reason. The reason he wanted Joey was because Joey had an interest in the Havana Cigar Room.
That's right.
In Beverly Hills. And
I would see him up there all the time. My client had a membership and I'd see Joey all the time smoking.
Richard wanted something to do with that. And so the whole point of casting Joey has nothing to do with the script or even the outer limits. It was another thing that he was after. And so
I think he did get his locker, funny enough.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad I could help.
The outer limits time that we had, it was very, very good to me because I had a third of the directors. I had the exec producer, you. I had some actors working on the show. I had Scott Nimmerfro doing an episode with you, one of our beloved friends who is a brilliant, God rest his soul, writer, producer. Mm-hmm. That I commissioned that deal, even though he had representation elsewhere, but I brought him into the deal. And my directors were literally directing like 8 or 9 out of the 22.
Your persistence in getting me that gig paid off so well. It
Yeah,
really, but again, it's a testament to you made something out of nothing.
I did that my whole career. When you work in a medium-sized company and you're surrounded by the big boys, and I was a young Turk. I was selling everything and anything I got my hands on. But my reputation, which was being a cocaine addict, I lost my ability to move forward and get my career to the next level and hanging out with the A-listers. It is what it is. But now I'm in production with you on a podcast with one coming up.
Indeed, we've got hey, there is a future, and I can hardly wait to get into it. That podcast is Prisoner X with John Kiriakou, which is about people in America and all over the world who are prisoners, but who should not be. John knows from personal experience what that's like. John was a CIA officer during our war on terror. He was in Pakistan when we captured the person we thought was the number 3 at Al Qaeda, a guy who's known to Gare was Abu Zubaydah. And for the first
Right.
60 hours that we held Abu Zubaydah captive, John Kiriakou was his handler. And John built up a relationship with him. And hey, this was still a man that we were going to interrogate, but John, coming from the old school, was creating a human relationship. And that's how you elicit information from people. You eventually make them see that, yeah, they should do this.
Not what they ended up doing.
No, at the end of the day, John learned a little sometime later that after he had left John and it was taken to black sites, a couple of different places, we waterboarded that man 83 times, even though we knew he wasn't the number 3 at Al Qaeda. He wasn't a prince, but he wasn't the number 3 at Al Qaeda. And he's certain, and he had actually given us a lot of really good intelligence. But we waterboarded that man 83 times nonetheless. And that's why he sits to this day at Guantanamo Bay.
And should not be there.
Should not be there. Although there's, as you'll hear in the episode when we finally get to drop that, I hope sometime in March, that there actually is the possibility that he could get released to a third country. Now, will that be the same under the current administration?
No.
I don't know.
Right.
And that may
We'll see.
kill everything on that front dead. But ironically, there are other prisoners that we'll talk about whose situations might improve because of having the next president we're going to have.
Yeah.
I can think of a couple of those people who, yeah, with a clever attorney, they could approach this new administration and say, hey, here's, you want to dance on the grave of your predecessors? Here, pardon this person.
Right. The person that should get pardoned is John Kiriakou.
Well, absolutely, positively.
He's not a spy. He's a whistleblower.
You know, who was president when John went to
Bush.
prison?
Obama or Bush?
It'd be easier if it was a Democrat, but
Who's
simply because,
starting under Bush?
well,
There you
well,
go.
although I don't think this current administration cares about Democrats or Republicans anymore. I think that's kind of
Right.
all. It's are you loyal to the man or are you not loyal to the man?
Right.
Nothing else matters.
And then after this, we've got Wall of Honor, which is brilliant.
There is a wall in the CIA headquarters, which the about to be president famously dishonored not long after taking office the first time. It is filled with the names of CIA officers and agents who have died in battle. as it were.
in the field.
Yeah, and some of the names are known. Many of the names are unknown, or will
Declassified.
are will if we all learn those names, they'd have to come and kill us all.
That's right.
So that's Wall of Honor, and that is coming also at some point. 2025 is going to be
It's gonna be a big year.
big year, a big year for podcasting.
Stock market.
I'm really curious to see what happens with that. What are you anticipating, Nick?
I'm anticipating a big year. I don't think Trump's going to do what what he said during his campaign. He's not going to round up and deport millions of people. He's going to say he did. I was listening to an interview on Scripps News with some experts, and that's what he does. He pretends like he's going to do something. He lies. He says he doesn't. People believe him. And once that lie starts, his followers believe it. Trump did this, Trump did that. No, he didn't. Yeah, he did. He said he did. So I believe it.
Yeah.
So shut up. Fuck you. It's political theater. That's what he does. It's what he does better than anybody.
Yes, it is, but that's the whole point. When you don't govern, it's all about kabuki.
That's right.
And artifice.
Right. It's a great word for it.
One last thing to talk about today. Hollywood is filled with, shall we say, princes and thieves. We've dealt with. Well, let's start with the princes. There are actual princes in this town.
Yeah,
and yeah, princes. Yes, there are princes in this town. A few have been your benefactors, haven't they?
yes, exactly. I was a young prince. I made my career. I launched my career by selling a pitch to Simpson Bruckheimer for $550,000 within two unknown writers when they weren't spending their own money, and it was on the front page of Variety. And the headline was, "In a rare move, Simpson Bruckheimer plucks down $550,000 for triads." True story about a guy named Tom Purdue, who was a sergeant in the San Francisco police. He was a detective and he worked with the Triad gang. Ultimately, the script never went anywhere, and Tom got killed in the line of fire. Speaking of in the line of duty, he left his wife and kids. But that's how I started my career. And then 2 weeks later, sold another one to MGM, and that's when pitches became hot. I started it. That's not a joke. I became known as the pitch man. I sold scripts I never even read. I was not a big reader for a while. I had some personal stuff. Tell me about it. Tell me what the script's about, and I'll sell it. Great.
Yeah, just give me a sentence, man. Yeah, give me a good
give
sentence.
me a log line.
But in essence, it wasn't required. Why you didn't need to know the intricacies of the characters' lives in order
All I needed to know what it was about. When the producer or the studio exec would say, "What's it about?" and I just tell them, I tell them the log line and say, "I'm not going to tell you anything more than that. I want you to read it, get coverage done, and read it."
Just as well you didn't, because really every
I
additional
don't want to
word
fuck
you
it up.
throw
It's
in.
not my
Yeah,
job
yeah,
to,
yeah, yeah.
to
No, it's absolutely
to tell
true.
you what
That's
it's
true.
about. Read the
Yeah.
script. You tell me what it's about, because I don't know.
But
You
really,
let
at
me
the end
read
of the
the
day,
coverage.
it's a less is more dynamic, and
Yeah.
damn if it doesn't work, because it forces them to do something.
That's right. At my company, I was always brought in from the other agents to help solve problems and help negotiate deals and put deals together. And I was a natural at it. I still am. That's what I do.
Who are some other princes that come to mind?
Ari Emanuel, the guys at CA, Kevin Huvain, obviously um, David Ellison. When you're born into that kind of money and he's a smart kid. He's a smart cat. Buying Paramount, You know, those are some of the cats who are, and the actors, of course, but they deserve it. They're the reason movies sell.
Who are the thieves?
I'm not going to name names.
You don't have to name particular names. Are there dead thieves who
They're
you
still
can talk
among
about?
us. Some are
They're
dead.
all
Yeah, they're among us. Some of them we've worked with. Some of them were producers that we partied with and worked with. But I'm not naming names.
But at the end of the day, did you think they were princes?
Absolutely. I was a prince. I only hung out with royalty. That's my life, Alan. Let's leave it there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Nick, I cannot thank you enough for being a last minute guy. Frankly, I think you should be a regular visitor to the podcast because
I should be.
you should be. No, and I think
I
that's
love talking.
in 2025. Hey, my goal is for you to be a podcast of your own.
I like that.
That's my ultimate goal is for people to scream, "Hey, Alan, shut the fuck up! Just let Nick do all the talking, you asshole."
That's right. I love you, Alan.
And with that, thank you again, Nick, and thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time. The How Not to Make a Movie podcast is executive produced by me, Alan Katz, by Gil Adler, and by Jason Stein. Our artwork was done by the amazing Jody Webster, and Jason Jody, along with Mando, are all the hosts of the fun and informative Dads from the Crypt podcast. Follow them for what my old pal the Crypt Keeper would have called terrific crypt content.